Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 24th of November, 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news, we got sport, business, Sea-Watch, travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, Chief Minister's looking for better tourism and trade links with Ireland. The Chief Constable reflects on the public roadshows. Thomas MHK on government transparency. The Isle of Man living wage latest, and the Ravens face Cheadle Town at the Bowl tomorrow.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster My Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster My. Manxcare has launched an appeal for anyone with any unused equipment to return it. The healthcare body says a lot of equipment is out in the community, which may be surplus to people's requirements and could be returned for reuse by those who need it. The Ronaldsway Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for icy patches. It will come into force this evening at 7 p.m. and will remain in place until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Ramsey Commissioners is holding a lantern parade this evening, which will finish with a visit from Father Christmas. It all got underway in the last half an hour on Parliament Street, and it'll finish outside the courthouse where children will be able to meet him. Further afield, 24 hostages, many of them Israelis held by Hamas for almost 7 weeks, have been released, according to the International Red Cross. In exchange, 39 women and children detained in Israeli jails have been freed. A 4-day pause in fighting appears to be holding. Police in Dublin are warning of more disruption in the city centre after overnight violence and looting. It was all sparked by the stabbing of 3 young children. 34 people were arrested. And a report found a Metro mayor spent £10,000 of taxpayers' money on 3 pictures of himself and his dog to advertise on double-decker buses. Former Labour MP Dan Norris, who represented parts of Western England, was promoting a free bus travel scheme. There are your headlines. News at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Jeremiah, thank you, Siobhan. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, we've got no wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea, smooth or slight. It's going to be dry and clear tonight. A light northerly breeze. Going to be frosty through the night. Lowest temperature 1 degree Celsius. Remember that yellow weather warning in operation for icy patches tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And for Saturday, that early grass frost will melt away, then dry and bright with sunny spells, light variable breeze, top temperature 8 degrees Celsius, dry overnight into Sunday, minimum 7 degrees. For Jaduni, cloudy with outbreaks of rain on a light to moderate southeasterly, becoming persistent, the rain that is, through the afternoon, 9 degrees Celsius. High tide tonight, 7 minutes past 9. Low tide tomorrow morning, 19 minutes before 4 a.m. Sunrise at 4 minutes past 8. And the morning high water, 23 minutes to 10.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
The Chief Minister says there's an opportunity to improve tourism and trade with Ireland. Alfred Cannon MHK is attending the British-Irish Council's 40th summit today, taking place in Dublin. He's been speaking to Manx Radio about what's been happening.
Knowing this summit was taking place, we also took the opportunity to look at how we could perhaps strengthen what we termed the Celtic partnership between Ireland and the Isle of Man. And on Wednesday night, I took the opportunity to host a networking reception alongside the Irish government, but primarily a networking event for Irish and Manx businesses to get together. 30 Manx businesses also travelled across to Dublin, met with a number of their Irish counterparts, and actually it was really interesting when chatting to all the representatives there to understand actually there's already fairly good substantial economic links, and I think we really do need to take that opportunity to build that further. In amongst the finance professionals, we also had some tourism representatives, and clearly there's opportunities for both nations actually to try and develop that tourism opportunity community. I was pleased to see the steam packet at the event on Wednesday evening, and I saw them discussing some of these issues with some Irish counterparts. I definitely think the government needs to look at it, and it's one thing where we are lacking one flight a day between Dublin and Ireland probably is not enough. So there is work to be done. But as I say, I think what we did and managed on Wednesday was to hopefully put in place a good platform. I think we established there is a good case to develop economic links further with Ireland, and I'm sure that's something we're going to be looking at over the next year or so.
The last in a series of police roadshows has taken place as the north of the Isle of Man told the force what their main concerns are within their neighbourhoods. Chief Constable Russ Foster has been speaking to Manx Radio about how he thinks they've gone.
I did expect more people to attend, but that doesn't mean I'm disappointed with the level of attendance. I think you can draw the inference that because not many people did turn out, that they're actually confident with the level of policing in their local area. The criminal justice system has been highlighted as an issue here. I've got every confidence in our criminal justice system. I think it's far superior to other jurisdictions where I've worked, and I think some of the sentences we see meted out, particularly around drug dealing, are outstanding.
How does an assault on a police officer impact the actual force?
I think there's a cultural shift required. Some members of the criminal justice process, let's say, think that it should be part and parcel of the role of a police officer to be assaulted. Well, that is certainly not the case. As a consequence, we've had, I think it's 57 officers assaulted in the last financial year. What I've been doing is putting forward a impact statement to the courts to consider, and I'm hoping that the judiciary take heed of that statement to understand that my police officers are parents, they are sons, they are daughters, they've got brothers and sisters, they are human beings. They do not deserve to be assaulted during the course of their duty. More often than not, they have to refrain from work, which puts pressure on their colleagues, certainly does have a detrimental effect on the service to the public. So my plea to the judiciary would be to ensure that perpetrators who assault police officers receive the full weight of the law and they impose the harshest sentences. It's got to act as a deterrent. We can't continue with this level of violence towards my police officers. It's totally and utterly unacceptable.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
23 minutes before 6 this Friday evening, 2 weeks since their last match, FC Isle of Man face a fellow informed side in Cheadle Town at the Bowl tomorrow night to start a run of 5 consecutive NWCFL Premier Division home games. Whilst 14 points separate the Ravens in 7th with Cheadle in 20th, FC Isle of Man boss Paul Jones warns they can't be complacent.
They've maybe struggled to start with, but certainly looking at their recent form, they're flying, in the similar kind of run of form as ourselves, so it'll be a really, really tough task, and we've already said to the players that, you can disregard where Cheadle are in the league. We're not playing that team because they've not played many league games over the last 6-7 weeks. It's been mainly cup games and they've got into winning habits, so we're really looking forward to seeing them again, and hopefully there'll be some faces that were there 2 seasons ago when we saw them last time. So it should be a good encounter. When we have a challenge, as you rightly put it, in front of us, I think the players historically have always lived up to that challenge and expectation, and I hope and expect them to again on Saturday. You're right, it'll be a tough game, and we need to expect nothing different. It will be amazing for the players and the club hopefully over the next kind of 5 weeks, but performances are required and 3 points are required in order to build that momentum and get the island excited again about coming down to the Bowl and cheering the lads on. So we're really looking forward to it. It does come at a nice time, this time of year, with the dark nights and dark mornings. It's a struggle at times, especially when you've played 20 odd games and most of those games have been away. This is a tough part of the season to get through, and if you can get through it in a really good place and take that momentum then and energy into the new year, then it could set us up in a really good place for the end of the season. And the supporters and the people down at the Bowl, I think, have got a really big part to play over the next kind of 5 games to give the players that energy when it is like that kind of fallow period of the season when they really need a bit of a boost.
A Manchester resident's been banned from the Isle of Man for 5 years after being caught with cannabis at the airport. The story from Tessa Hawley.
Niall Carraher of Johnson Street arrived at Ronaldsway on a flight from Liverpool at 3 p.m. on the 15th of November. However, customs officers became suspicious about what he was doing on the island when he couldn't provide information about where he was staying or the purpose of his trip. Carraher told told them he booked his ticket that morning and was going home the next day, adding he comes to the island around 4 times a year in order to clear his head. He was described as being hesitant and uncertain in his answers to questions, telling them he would be staying somewhere on the front near the sea terminal. Pizza Hut was one of the few places he could name, but he couldn't or wouldn't provide any details of people who he knew on the island. When he was searched, 3.5 grams of the Class B drug was found in a pair of shorts he was carrying. It had a street value of £70. Appearing at Douglas Courthouse the following day on his 32nd birthday, Carragher pleaded guilty to producing drugs from the United Kingdom to the Isle of Man. His advocate told the court he takes full responsibility for the cannabis found. She also claimed that her diabetic client had told her he hadn't been given access to his medication whilst in police custody, something Deputy High Bailiff Graham Cook said would be outrageous if true. He fined Carragher £200 and ordered him to pay £125 in prosecution costs, as well as imposing the exclusion order.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman left Heysham at 22 minutes past 1. She's safely into Douglas now due to the increased siltation at Heysham Port caused by recent storms. Tonight 7:45 has been rescheduled. We'll depart half an hour early at 7:15. You should check in no later than 7:15. Should be getting there around 11 o'clock tonight now. The overnight departure 2 a.m. has been rescheduled. We'll depart now at 1:30. Check in no later than 45. The boat will be back on the Isle of Man just after 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The morning departure tomorrow should be on time, 8 o'clock Manxman heading to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Thomas MHK, the Douglas Central MHK, wants government to be more transparent with its spending. He explains why he's been asking for details of loans to organisations like the Manx Development Corporation.
All I'm trying to do is to, first of all, unpick and expose the real process that's going on through looking at the funds. Because today, I'll give you another example. Today, we learned that I think we're up to nearly 5 million committed from public funds to the Manx Development Corporation, and we heard that there's quite a large private loan facility that hasn't as yet been drawn down for Manx Development Corporation, so that's a huge amount of money. Last week we heard that there's a 100 million economic strategy fund, 51 million of which has already been committed. Today we learn more about the project development fund and the transformation fund and the sorts of projects that are going to be funded from it. This is a huge change in the way that public finance, it's a huge change in the role of people in this court versus other people around the system, and I do think it's the right time to unpick what's actually going on and make sure we're happy with what's going on. Mr. Speaker was very surprised with one answer that was given, because it was suggested to him that the loan facility for Manx Development Corporation wasn't government debt, and Mr. Speaker had a big problem with that. I'm on Mr. Speaker's side. You know, in the 20th century, often people got in big trouble when they started pretending that money that had been guaranteed or money that was off balance sheet wasn't really the responsibility of the central entity, and it would be a great shame if because I think we're actually up to about £1 billion of debt now from the Isle of Man government, and still people say the Isle of Man government doesn't have any debt. But if we're up to £1 billion in local authority loans, bonds, MUA guaranteed bonds, MDC loan facilities, that's a huge amount of borrowing. £1 billion, you know, that's quite a transformation from the days when you could genuinely say the Isle of Man government didn't have any debt.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6 in equity markets, Barclays was among the top gainers in the FTSE 100 following a Reuters report reporting the bank is looking to save up to £1 billion via cost cuts, resulting in 2,000 job losses. Legal & General nudged up after saying it had agreed to a full buy-in of the Boots pension scheme for £4.8 billion. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrocourt.com. Consumers, it seems, are walking away from chocolate due to consistent price increases, the result of soaring sugar and cocoa costs. A Financial Times Times article notes a growing number of customers are foregoing chocolate. The impact's apparent in sales volumes. Chocolate Swiss giants like Lindt and Sprunglerie and Barry Callebaut, which both project stagnant demand or a drop this year compared to 2022, anticipated further increases in cocoa and sugar prices, exacerbated by El Niño's impact on West African cocoa growers, may result in a record 350,000-ton agricultural supply deficit and the lowest stocks-to-use ratio in 40 years. They say the trend will continue.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
London stocks finished flat on the day. Brent futures rose, gold held its ground, and the US dollar slipped as investors bet US interest rates have peaked. The numbers reported by Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 up 0.1%, 7,491. The DAX in Frankfurt up just over 0.25% at 16,037. A short time ago, New York City, the Dow Jones Industrials up 0.33%, 35,383. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 0.25% at 15,963. The S&P 500 up just 0.02% at 4,557. But the trading day continues. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 26 cents, €1 15.2 cents, and 23 South African rand 56 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.33%, $1,996 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up just over a percentage point at $81.92.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's the relevant information. If you're sailing, kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend, for tomorrow, Saturday, the wind is east or northeasterly, force 2 or 3. Wave height 0.1 to 0.5 metres, wave period 3 to 5 seconds, high tide 23 minutes to 10, sea temperature 12 degrees. And for Sunday, the wind is southerly or southeasterly, force 4 or 5, wave height 0.5 to 1 metres, wave period 3 to 4 seconds, high tide 23 minutes past 10 a.m.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate. Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
The Manx Labour Party is calling for the Isle of Man's minimum wage to align with the living wage by April next year. The story from Lewis Foster.
It follows the UK government's commitment to raise its minimum wage to £11.44 by the same date. The Isle of Man's rate stands at £10.75. The living wage, which is described as the minimum pay necessary to allow people the basic opportunities and choices necessary for them to participate in society, is currently set at £12.01. Treasury plans to harmonise both rates by 2025. However, a survey is out. Alex Allinson is the Minister.
One of the things before the autumn statement was that they had the announcement that the real living wage in the United Kingdom would rise to £11.44 per hour. Now we have a minimum wage of £10.75 and an Isle of Man living wage, which is voluntary, of just over £12. We've got a consultation at the moment about the minimum wage, so we need to look at wages and taxation.
Well, a survey may be out, but the Manx Labour Party says it believes this change can and should be brought in sooner. It says it's no secret that many Manx residents are currently struggling with the high cost of living, and our high street is clearly feeling the pinch too. It says we urge all parties involved in discussions to align the minimum wage with the living wage from April 2024, and says it is a matter it will continue to advocate for, both in Keys and through its Treasury member.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with football, and St Mary's will be hoping to claim the final Railway Cup spot in the Canada Life Men's Premier League this weekend, but they have a big task ahead of them on Saturday afternoon. They host unbeaten Premier League leaders Ayr United in the early kick-off at the Bowl, in one of the standout ties in Saturday's fixtures across the divisions. The heat continues to ramp up elsewhere in Division 2, with leaders Castle Town, second place Foxdale and third place Colby all just separated by 1 point. Colby and Foxdale will meet tomorrow, whilst Castletown are at home to Jims. All matches tomorrow are due to kick off at 2 p.m, except for the aforementioned St Mary's and Ayr United tie, which starts at 1:45. Meanwhile, in rugby tomorrow, the focus is on Cheshire Plate competition with two Manx sides in action across the water. On Saturday, Ramsey take on Warrington-based side Moore, whilst Western Vikings are on the road at Aldershot. A win for Ramsey would see them confirm a place in their first ever Cheshire tournament final. Here's Manx Radio's rugby correspondent Dave Christian.
Moore, they're top of the league, but they've actually only won 5 out of 9. I suspect Ramsey will be looking at that and thinking, well, we've got a good chance here. Western Vikings at Aldershot, different kettle of fish there. Vikings have got the players there to do the job, but I suspect Aldershot are just going to be a little bit too strong for them.
And finally, a huge final weekend awaits in the mixed hockey season tomorrow, with the league titles in the Premier League and Division 1 to be decided. In the Premier League, leaders Valkyries A and second place Backers A meet on Saturday afternoon in a major final showdown for the top flight crown. Elsewhere, Valkyries B and Castletown Southerners are level at the top of Division 1 ahead of their respective matches tomorrow. Manx Radio's hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham explains both situations.
Valkyries know a draw or a win will get them the title. Backers A are only 1 point behind. Valkyries B will know that they need to go and get a win. Castletown Southerners are against their own Castletown Camags team. If both teams win, it will go down to goal difference.
Saturday will also confirm who out of Ramsey A and Vikings B will be relegated from the Premier League. They face Backers B and Harlequins A respectively.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronald's Way, the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick is currently showing on time. Then it's the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City on time, 5 to 8 returning patient transfer Loganair from Liverpool showing on time as well. Outbound tonight, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool on time, and the 8 o'clock Gatwick EasyJet showing on time. On the roads, temporary lights in Colby on the main road at the junction with Ballakill Ferry Road for water main work. Temporary lights in Crosby on the main road near Ballavitchell Road for excavation work. The Aracy Road's closed from Glen May to the Shoulder Road for resurfacing. Temporary lights on Main Road Laxey near Churchill for gas main work. In Sulby, the Clanner Road is closed for resurfacing. Douglas has got temporary lights on Dukes Road for sewer lining work, and also some sewer lining on Victoria Road between Marathon Road and Marathon Drive. Hillside Avenue closed through to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement, and the section of Switzerland Road's closed for construction work.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Said to be a weekend of disruption for passengers trying to get on and off the Isle of Man. With the Manxman, a raft of sailings already rescheduled. On Wednesday night, increased siltation at Heysham and poor weather were blamed as passengers stayed on the boat for 7 hours. This passenger, well, hear what they have to say.
They blamed it on the silt, but I can't imagine that they weren't aware of the silt before we set off. So we spent about 2 or 3 hours bobbing alongside the coast of England. Obviously, with the issues that we've got with the airport, has meant that flying is something that's not a reliable form of transport. And now with the boat as well, it's the fact that we have such a lack of communication from them as well. If they had been upfront and honest and just said, the sailing's not going to actually set sail until much later because we don't want to have you sat on a boat for 7 hours, that would have been preferable to being on the boat and then found out that obviously we're going to be held hostage effectively for the extra hours. And there were people who had left pets in cars that were quite distraught, people who had medication left in their cars that was timed medication that they then couldn't access. It really wasn't great. They need to listen to the people. They need to actually take on board what people are saying, because we are the ones who effectively have funded the steam packet purchase and therefore the steam packet boats and everything like that. But we're also the ones that pay for those return sailings. They need to be more transparent. They need to be open and honest with people, and don't get it that they get on the boat and then find out that their journey is going to take 7 hours. Give us that choice before we get on. Be open, be honest.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
The Enterprise Minister says businesses have concerns and questions about artificial intelligence. Tim Johnston, MHK, says AI is exciting, but amidst broader conversations need to be had about how it could affect the economy on the Isle of Man in the future.
But clearly one of the big issues we're going to be talking about is AI. I think that's very exciting, but I think also it's people are quite concerned what that means and what that means for the economy for the future. So again, it's an opportunity to talk about that. I think business even themselves are concerned about it, want to understand more about it. But I think there's an opportunity today to listen to some really key speakers around what the real the exciting opportunities there are with AI to really improve productivity for businesses. But we also recognise the concerns about what it means for jobs as well. So we need to have that broader conversation and start to understand what it means. I think we need to recognise the scale of this event. I mean, there's over 160 businesses here today, over 300 people. So this is a really big event that touches most businesses. The thing about digital is it's not sort of one area. It covers right across all business, really. The importance of digital technology, IT. So I do think these sort of events are a great opportunity to bring people together who really are affected across the island. And as a government, it's really important that we're driving our economy forward, that we're creating jobs. Because obviously, if we're not creating jobs, we're not creating revenue for the economy, we can't pay for public services. So I think it's really important that as the department, we're the engine room of the economy, if you like, to drive that forward.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Rob Pritchard is here with Friday Sport. Chris Pearson, the greatest hits at 6:30. Howie Kane with Sweet and Swing at 9. Rianne at 10 with After Us. Have a great weekend.
WINT